company built an AI model that is already better than Facebook's and OpenAI. And the company did it in 2 months and spent less than $6 million to develop it. The AI model is called DeepSeek, built by a company from Hangzhou, and has 671 billion parameters. And they got there using a lot less computing power than the biggest companies have. This analyst says that DeepSeek had a joke of a budget and needed only 2,048 GPUs and 2 months. It was previously thought that a comparable model would require about 16,000 GPUs, and DeepSeek required 11 times fewer GPU hours to build. This is an X link to DeepSeek's report and analytics. It has 5.5 million views. And the secret, again, is that DeepSeek used open source. CNBC explains how Chinese companies are using open source to build LLMs to innovate faster and spread their use. China's open source models have strong performance and low cost to serve, and it drives innovation faster because it opens up their models to more developers, including developers around the world. One reason these moves are so important is that the AI models will eventually become operating systems across industry lines and applications. What's more, the Chinese AI models have been developed using old chips, older version NVIDIA chips. US companies are running the latest and fastest semiconductors in our AI models, and China's stuck using older chips, but they're getting them to work better. In November, Tencent, a giant tech company here, released their LLM using NVIDIA H20 chips, which are far less powerful than the ones our companies are using. It didn't matter. DeepSeek uses NVIDIA H800 chips, which are cheaper but slower than the H100s, because NVIDIA H100s are restricted for export to China. And that didn't matter either. Open source is what matters. China threw open the problem to hundreds of thousands of engineers in dozens of places, and now they're ahead. Eric Schmidt was head of Google and was a key advisor on US AI policy. He told policymakers that the semiconductor export restrictions would hold China back. May 2024 was 8 months ago. That's all. And 8 months ago, the former CEO of Google was sure that the US lead in AI was 2 or 3 years, which is forever, and that the new chip bans would freeze China in place while the US would just race ahead. 6 months later, he gave another speech and said, forget everything he said before. By then, Alibaba's Qwen model, which is also open source, was better than anything being done by our companies. Then came Tencent. Alibaba and Tencent are enormous companies, by the way, and if they wanted to develop proprietary AI instead of going open source, they could have. But they went open source and got their models faster and cheaper. And now DeepSeek has done it faster and cheaper still, with less than $6 million. Eric Schmidt has a net worth of $26 billion, and no doubt he understands tech better than anyone he's giving policy advice to in Washington. But to understand what China did and how, it's not important to understand the technology. It's much more important to understand China. And our top people don't understand China.